share with somebody else, feel free. And Patty can tell you more about that than I can.
Well, it's on our YouTube channel, and I don't know, maybe tomorrow or by Tuesday, I will share the link so you can get into our YouTube channel and rewatch it, or like John said, share it with others and invite others next month, all your family and friends and anyone that you think could benefit from.
And if you have any ideas of what we want to talk about, or I like feedback, I always forget to mention at the end of each one, I love to get feedback, positive, obviously, but I'm just kidding. But I like the negative too. So if there's things that you would like to have changed or different things, I would love to hear that too, because I like to make it as positive as I possibly can and listener friendly, etc. So, okay. Like I said, we're going to talk about heart disease and how to keep the heart healthy. Probably a better way to look at it is how do we keep the heart healthy rather than talk about heart disease, because we don't want anybody to have heart disease. So I want to kind of go over some things. The number one, if anybody wants to come off of mute real quick and just tell me, what do you think the leading cause of death is in America?
Cancer, heart disease, and one other.
Okay, so that is correct. Heart disease is your number one killer of Americans. And it's something we don't necessarily hear that often. We hear a lot about other things. Cancer is number two. We hear about cancer all the time. And these numbers are from 2020. There was 696,962 deaths from heart disease in 2020, 602,305 cancer deaths. COVID-19 had 350,831 deaths. I wish we would get as much conversation about how to protect ourselves from heart disease and cancer as we do as we did or are hearing about COVID and flu and all that stuff, because it's almost double what some of these death rates are. And it's all things that we can take care of. Going down the list, just to give you, I have the top 10. I gave the top 3. Accidents, unintentional injuries is 200,000, almost 201,000. Strokes is 160,000 plus. Chronic lower respiratory disease, 152,600. Alzheimer's, 134,000 plus. Diabetes, 102,000. Influenza and pneumonia, 53,000 plus. And nephritis is 52,547,000. And so when we talk about diseases, a lot of some of these other diseases I mentioned actually can relate or cause heart disease. For example, diabetes is a big one. Cancer can cause heart disease because of the medications and different things that we pump into the body for it. So people can end up with a lot of heart attacks, that type of thing. Pneumonia can cause heart disease. So in reality, it's all about our immune system. If we keep our immune system strong, then it really is kind of a domino effect. It's going to help everything else to be well or stay well. But tonight we're going to target the heart health. All right. We have to understand that the heart is a centerpiece. Obviously, without it, once it becomes damaged, the whole body becomes damaged, which includes blood flow, circulation, etc. So, as I said, the leading cause of disease, death in the United States is heart disease, with 600 and almost 700,000 deaths per year in heart disease. what do you think causes heart disease? What are the reasons that we have such a high rate of it, and why?
Crappy diet,
Okay.
crappy
Right.
diet for one, excessive consumption of meat that's not healthy,
Stress.
excessive stress also, excessive consumption of sugar,
Mhm.
a society that does not really foster healthy interaction.
Okay.
Many, we no longer live in supportive communities generally, for example, which definitely has an effect on the heart.
Okay.
Mhm.
And the other thing is, the United States has more deaths from heart disease by far than virtually any other country in the world. It's been reported that in reality, there's more heart disease in the United States than there is in virtually all of Europe. So, when do we stop and back up a little bit and say, something isn't right here, something is wrong? We may be the strongest country, we may be the most industrialized nation in the world, etc., but we're really not taking care of ourselves the way that we need to take care of ourselves. Okay, so what we have to do in order to love our heart, we have to lower our bad cholesterol. All right, now bad cholesterol, for those of you who have had physicals and heard doctors talk, is what is called LDL. LDL. Good cholesterol is HDL. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. You have to use it or lose it. Okay. And what do you think that means? Use it or lose it? Anybody want to chime in?
If you don't use it, it's gone.
Well, what does using it mean? Your heart pumps all the time, 24/7. What does that mean? Your heart's one organ that never takes a break, never. So basically, use it or lose it means exercise. You have to have movement. You have to get your heart rate up in order to strengthen it, just like you would any other muscle. And then, of course, somebody mentioned, or a couple people mentioned earlier, just a minute ago, about stress. And we have to monitor and control stress. Now, stress is the one thing that you're not going to get rid of. So as we get into this, I don't want you to think I'm going to start talking about get rid of stress. That's impossible. Okay. If you have certain things going on in your life, it's not going to go away just because you want it to, or you tell your heart we're going to ignore it, or whatever the case is. So there's other things we can do to manage stress. All right. You all heard this, you are what you eat. Okay. LDL I mentioned. Okay. Most of the time it's called bad cholesterol. And that is typically always a higher number than your good cholesterol. And we have to have good and bad cholesterol to function. I know it always sounds like an oxymoron when I tell people you have to have good bacteria, you have to have bad bacteria. Most people think, why do I have to have bad bacteria? Why can't it just all be good? But that's not, there has to be a balance. When we are bad cholesterol becomes too high, that's what creates a buildup of plaque, a thickening of the blood, thickening of the artery walls, etc. So obviously, when that happens, the risk for heart disease and strokes, etc., increase dramatically. The blood cannot pump, and the heart has to work very hard to push the blood throughout the body. Okay, so when you have diets high in saturated fats, a lot of salt, empty carbs. For the meaning of empty carbs is white flour, white pastas, different things like that. Or it also can be overcooked vegetables. Okay, believe it or not, if you constantly eat overcooked vegetables or vegetables from cans, that type of thing, that also can create what is called an empty carb. They're low in fiber, so there's really nothing to it. So the body cannot use it in the way that it was designed to be used. How do we lower that? You have to lower it by eating more lean proteins. Now, many people think they're healthy because they get onto what am I trying to say? Veggies only. I'm not going to eat any food, any meats at all. I don't necessarily agree with that. Meats are good in proportion, okay? Meats are good in proportion, but you have to eat quality meat. If you're going to eat red meat, which is fine, but it needs to be grass-fed. It needs to be meat that's taken care of and grown properly, just like we say we are what we eat. An animal is, they are what they eat or what is put into their body. So if they're injected with steroids, they're injected, given all corn, etc., they then become unhealthy, therefore the meat is unhealthy. If we eat farm-raised fish, I was at a Super Bowl party actually, and I was talking to some of the guys that were there, and about half of them we got talking about fish, and half of them had no idea about farm-raised. They said, I just buy the cheapest. And I can relate to that because years ago, I was the same way. But I tried to explain to them farm-raised and versus wild. And some of them were asking me, then why would anybody inject any animal with those kind of things that would harm the animal or harm people that eat it? And I explained to them that it's strictly about money. The faster you grow the animal, the faster you can butcher it and put it on the market. So it's all about turnover. And that's why you never want to buy farm-raised fish whatsoever, okay? That is why when you eat eggs, and people say, you've heard this, eggs cause high cholesterol. That is wrong. Now, when you go into a grocery store and you buy eggs, and you crack the egg, and the yolk is completely yellow, that means it's an old egg. It's the nutrition has actually left the egg. A good egg, and even sometimes when you go in the store and you'll see eggs that say organic, okay, organic eggs, and they're still not fresh, okay? They can be organic all you want to, but if they've been sitting around for 6 months, a year, which many times they are, then the yolk becomes a yellow. The yolk should be orange. When we first started carrying farm fresh eggs in our offices, I would get people calling me and saying, I don't know if these eggs are any good because the yolks are orange. And we had to explain that that's a color an egg should be. It should be orange, not yellow. But when we eat something that's lost the nutrition, then it becomes damaging to the body. So there's a whole lot more about eating than saying, I'm going to eat certain foods. You have to also know, where do those foods come from and the quality. How are they cooked? Don't overcook. That type of thing, if you want to protect your body from cholesterol problems. So, but you can eat meat, foods like avocados, and people will tell you, well, avocados are high in fat. I'm trying to lose weight. Forget it. Eat them. All right. Eat them. They're very, very good for you. They help to break down cholesterol. Nuts. You want raw nuts. Get rid of the salt, because earlier we mentioned salt raises the risk of cholesterol, raises the risk of heart disease. So you want to try to get rid of as much salt. And if you do salt, use pink Himalayan salt, or you want to use sea salt. But actually, pink Himalayan salt is the best salt you can use. Buy nuts, put a little bit of oil on, a cookie pan, throw the nuts in the oven, put some pink Himalayan salt on them and roast them. And then they're good for you. So green leafy vegetables, all right? The fresher, the better. In the wintertime here, we're not getting a lot of good fresh vegetables. I understand that, but you want to get as much as you possibly can. In the summertime, you should eat nothing but fresh. People that are selling it, especially if they're GMO free, you really want to eat fresh as much as you can in the summertime, because we know in the wintertime we're not going to get it as fresh as we really want. Cholesterol counts often, it used to be if you had a cholesterol count of 200, 210, they said you were okay. Now they have lowered it down to saying 180. I don't necessarily agree with that. My personal opinion is it's all about the numbers. Where is your HDL, which is good cholesterol, versus where is your LDL, which is a bad cholesterol? What they do is they take those two numbers and combine them. But if your HDL is high and your LDL is low, regardless of the number, you're okay. So it's more important, in my opinion, to look at the individual numbers than it is the total. Many people, and even doctors included, have said one reason for lowering those numbers is that more people get put on medication for it. So that's up to each individual to determine, but that's some of the thought process. Okay. Okay. The other thing we need to do is sup up. We need to take supplements. Why? Because you will not get all the right enough nutrients in your body by eating. You can't. Your colon would have to work 100%. Your intestinal tract would have to work 100%. You would have to eliminate just perfectly all the time. Your digestive enzymes, your stress would have to be perfect in order for your body to be able to break everything down. You just cannot get enough nutrients out of eating foods. Plus, as I mentioned earlier, especially in the wintertime, and your vegetables aren't as fresh as we want it to be. So therefore, it's not, we're not getting the nutrition that we want. So we need to understand that there are certain things we need to take, we need to get in our body to help our body stay healthy. One of the best ways to do that for those people that are local is to come in, do a Zytoscan so we can see what nutrients do you need at that given time, because it will change. You don't always need the daily vitamin or the vital all the time. There's other things you may need to support your immune system at the level that you want it supported at any given time, depending on stress, depending on the way you've been eating, depending on the time of the year, etc. So keep that in mind, but we do need to make sure we get the right nutrition in our body through eating and supplementation. The things that really help the heart, salmon oil and flaxseed oil. Now, you never need to take both of them. A salmon oil obviously is from fish, and it's not the same as fish oils that you find in the grocery stores. Most of your fish oil in a grocery store is from fish closer to shore, and which means there's more chemicals in the water that the fish actually consume. Salmon oil is really good for people, especially that might have issues with some depression, overstressed, etc., because it really does help the brain as well as the heart. Flaxseed oil is a plant. So sometimes people that just don't want to eat fish, are vegetarians, et cetera, we use a flaxseed oil, but primarily I use a lot more salmon than I do the flax. Sometimes people say, well, I take flaxseed and I sprinkle it on my food or my cereals or whatever. The only problem with that is oils, the liquid assimilates into the body rapidly, and very, very little is excreted when you move stools, etc., where the flaxseed itself has to be broke down. So therefore, you do not get as much into the body as you would if it was the liquid gel caps, okay? And then fiber. Fiber is hugely important for many, many things. Most people think it's designed to help eliminate. Yes, it does that. However, it does much more. It takes care of, it helps with cholesterol. The more fiber we get in our body, the lower our cholesterol will be, because it also helps the blood and cleans the blood as well. Because by eliminating and moving everything through your intestinal tract, you have to understand that when you keep the colon and the intestinal tract clean, the blood flow doesn't pick garbage up and send it throughout the body. The colon is virtually the only organ that both your blood flow and your circulatory flow run through. So if we have toxic colons or intestinal tract issues, what happens is it picks it up and draws it through the rest of the body, and that obviously creates a problem. So fiber and your essential fatty acids, which is your salmon oil and your flaxseed oil, extremely important, okay? So how do we reduce stress on our heart? Well, we lower blood pressure, okay? So high blood pressure is a major risk for heart disease. We have to get some exercise to strengthen the heart and get the blood moving. So if our heart is strong, it's like any other muscle in our body. It obviously can pump the blood better and with less effort. So if you have good lungs, you can move and run and do the things you want to do. If you don't, it's very, very hard. So it's the same thing with the heart. The heart is a muscle, and it has to be strengthened. For people that never move, they lay around, they don't get any activity, the heart, just like every other muscle in our body, gets weak, and it doesn't pump and circulate the blood to the extremities of the body. Therefore, when people have sugar problems, then they're not getting circulation to the extremities, feet, hands primarily. And that's why a lot of times when people are diabetics, they end up with amputations, unfortunately, because there's no blood flow. And some of the symptoms of poor circulation is cold feet, cold hands, etc., especially at night when the body is more tired, ready for rest. We feel that fatigue. Body wraps are excellent for it. For people that have diabetes, when we do a body wrap, we wrap the feet once they lie down, because it draws blood to the extremities. So there's ways to force the body and help the body do it, but exercise is one of them. I don't want people to rely on saying, okay, I'll get circulation by doing body wraps, okay? That's really not the way you want to strengthen the heart in order to make that happen, not through a vitamin E or niacin. Okay, next, weight management. Now, we all know that when we carry too much weight, it creates a problem. Imagine if, let's just say you're 20 pounds overweight with body fat. So we take a person and we put a 20-pound weight on their back and say, let's go for a hike. It wouldn't be very long before a person says, I can't, it's too much, my heart is racing, I'm overly tired. Well, fat does the same exact thing. And that's why when people lose body fat, all of a sudden they start feeling more energetic, they move better, their joints feel better, etc. Well, the less stress we put on the heart, the better off it is. Okay, and don't confuse putting stress on the heart with exercising, because we don't over-exercise, but we exercise to strengthen the muscle. And being overweight and exercising can put too much stress on the body, wherein you got to be careful. And oftentimes I'll tell people when they're going on a program, they'll say, okay, I'm going to go to the gym now, start that too. I tell them to wait. Let's drop some weight and then we'll start doing it, because of the risk of being overweight and putting too much physical stress on the heart. Doesn't mean don't exercise. It means take it easy. all right? And if you don't believe that weight really creates a problem, try this. Go get yourself a 1 pound weight, get 2 of them, put 1 on each ankle and go for a walk. And you will feel it immensely. And that's only 1 pound on each leg. When I used to do a lot of running, and I used to do that to try to help build up leg muscle. And you will be amazed at how just a pound puts a lot more stress on the joints, on the muscles, and obviously on the heart. So try that and you'll see. And so if you're carrying 10, 15, 20 plus pounds of body fat, what it's doing to us. Okay, strengthen oxygen delivery to the muscles. Okay, again, goes back to exercise. Exercise, exercise, exercise. Oftentimes when I do the Zyto and the services, it says exercise is one of the top 5. Why? Because that tells us that you're not getting enough oxygen to the lungs, you're not getting enough strength to the heart, etc. So what happens is we have to get off the couch, we have to exercise, we have to move, and that goes back to use it or lose it, okay? We have to make the heart work a little bit harder at times in order to build up the strength of the muscle and pump blood to the muscles. Lack of blood to the muscles equates to cramps. When people start getting a lot of leg cramps or muscle cramps in the body, sometimes it can be because you're not getting enough oxygen, okay? And it might not always be calcium, although calcium helps to produce oxygen to the muscles and put it in the blood as well. But exercise, I can't stress that enough. Get out and walk every day. If it's too cold, if you got stairway, go up and down the stairway. Just do it for 15, 20 minutes, up and down, up and down. Do something that you can do in order to strengthen the heart and get the blood flow. Sitting down on the sofa watching TV and getting up every once in a while to use a bathroom is not exercise, okay? So we have to get some continual, ideally 20 minutes at a time. Okay, lower stress. I had somebody in my office today and we talked about stress. And I said, with your situation, the stress is not going to go away. So you have to do everything else to take care of your body so that the stress will not affect you as much. So this person is trying to take care of their health, they're trying to take care of their mother, et cetera, and it's a tremendous amount of stress. And anybody who's been through it or knowing somebody's been through stuff like that knows how much stress it is to go through that in our life. So what happens is when our body becomes less healthy, whether it's heart problems, whether it's diabetes, whether it's candida, whether it's arthritis, it just makes everything much harder to cope with. And then when that mental stress comes on, it's virtually, and many times can break us down. So we have to understand that when we get under stress, what happens is a hormone called cortisol starts to permeate through the body and we get too much of it. And that really puts a lot of stress on the heart. And so it's the hormone cortisol. We always say it's stress, but stress causes that. So it can also create weight gain, especially in the abdomen, all right? When you get stressed, that is a time to exercise. That is the time to meditate. That is a time to get your mind away from the problem for 5, 10, 15 minutes at a time to allow your heart to slow down and relax, to let the brain slow down and relax and try to get it out of your mind for that amount of time. My getaway is prayer, okay? 15, 20 minutes every morning I spend with scripture. That's my way of relaxing and getting my heart rate down and not worrying about anything else. There is no noise. There's no TV. There's no radio. Nothing is on. It's just me and my scripture for whatever I'm looking at that time, and that calms me. So when I come to work, Patty knows she has a calm person to work with.
About 5 minutes.
That wasn't funny.
Yeah.
Okay, so work on that. We have to reduce inflammation, okay? Inflammation is a cause of disease. The primary cause of disease is inflammation. And as I said earlier, inflammation causes disease. I want to say that over and over because I want you to understand that inflammation is dangerous. What can inflammation do to us? Create virtually every disease known to man. How do we reduce inflammation? We detox. We eat right. We clean our body. We exercise. We meditate. We relax. We take time for ourselves. All of those things. And I know there's people listening right now that are saying, I don't have time for that. Well, that's why your cortisol levels are way too high. You have to make time for it. You have to. There is no other choice unless you want to be sick. Because once we get chronic inflammation, chronic means it's been there, it is there, it's been there, and it's not leaving until you do something dramatic. And once we get that, your health is going to deteriorate, and it's going to deteriorate rapidly. So you have to understand that we have to reduce the inflammation in our body. What are some signs of inflammation? Soreness, muscle fatigue, joints hurting, headaches, etc. Those are the beginning notifications by your body that you're getting too much inflammation. So that is why when people are stressed, people take time off, they go on vacation, they come back relaxed, and they feel better. Why? Because you calm the body. But when we stay in a fight or flight mode, that inflammation just persists. When we stay in a fight or flight, we eat wrong. We don't exercise. We're uptight. We're angry, etc., and that just feeds it. That is the devil saying, thank you very much, and just keep on building it until our body can't tolerate it, okay? Then we turn to medications, and medications ultimately in the long run can cause more inflammation. So those things we just have to understand. So we have to reduce inflammation by doing many of these things that you see above. Lower your stress, increase oxygen, get rid of the extra weight, lower your blood pressure, and we do that by doing all the things we just mentioned. Okay, so okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about exercise. Okay, oftentimes people say things like, what type of exercise should I do? Excuse me. First thing I want to tell you, it's like eating. You should do all of it. You should do all of it. Not just running. I was a runner. That's all I did was run. I ended up with hip problems. I ended up with calf problems, etc. Because two things, I didn't stretch enough, and I just did the one exercise. I was under the impression that if you just ran enough, you'd be healthy, okay? But we need all forms. So there is no one better than another, all right? So just like eating food, you need variety. Variety is a key to health as well in many aspects of our life. So we need to do cardio. We need strength training. Oftentimes women will say, I don't want to do strength training because I don't want to get muscular. You can do strength training without being muscular, but in your chest area, when to build up the heart, the muscles around the heart is very important for protection of the heart. So the young girl that you see in the pictures lifting weights, you don't even have to have weights. You can do things like take a gallon jugs of water and just have them next in the chair and just lift them up and down, different ways, in and out. You can do, the best way to do strength training is to do what we call repetitions. So if you lift up, you might do it 5 times and then set it down. and then you wait a minute, and then you do maybe another 5, and then you wait a little bit. Then you might do it where you, instead of bringing it straight up, you bring them out to your sides, up and down 5 times and set them down. And you do that called repetitions. By doing that, you're not going to be muscle bound, okay? You're not, at my age, I'm not looking to have 6-pack abs. I just want to be healthy, all right? So you want to mix up your exercise training. But strength training is more about strengthening bones and muscles, all right? So if you want to help strengthen your bones, you want to do some strength training. When it comes to cardiovasculars, that's more for long periods of time or longer periods of time of the heart, getting the heart rate up. When we get our heart rate up, we want 20 minutes, minimum 20 minutes. It takes 20 minutes to get it to a peak. Now, when you do cardio or any exercise, rule of thumb is that you want to not overexert. So what we say is, if you're, especially cardio, if you're exercising and you can talk, you're okay, all right? If you are exercising and somebody is talking or you're trying to answer somebody and you have to gasp, you're putting too much stress. So you want to understand how do I know if it's too much or not enough? That's a good key, all right? So work your body, don't overwork it. Work your body, but don't underwork it. Walking the dog where the dog stops every 10 feet to sniff is not a walk, all right? A good walk is 20 minutes and you can feel it, but you can still speak, you can still talk and walk and be comfortable. But as you do it more and more, you should add a little bit more, whether it's a little bit faster or a little bit longer, whichever you prefer, or both, all right? So they say that an hour a day is ideal. I know oftentimes there's not an hour to go exercise, but most of us can find about 20 minutes somewhere to do some form of exercise. So we just need to get in our mindset, just like we in our mindset of doing many other things, we got to carve out a little bit of time, and we call it you time, okay? It's for you, not for somebody else. It's for you. Doesn't have to be so that, oh, you look so good in that outfit, but it's for your heart, it's for your muscles, it's for your lungs, and work on those things all the time. Strength training has a lot of other things. So performing strength training exercise, even for an hour a week, think about that, an hour a week. So how many minutes is that, Patty, a day?
I knew you were going to come to that.
That's about 8 minutes a day. 8 minutes a day can reduce the risk of developing metabolic disorders by 17%. 8 minutes a day. We sit in front of a TV. We do other things and waste time. You could be doing little things to help strengthen the body. So metabolic disorders include high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and high sugar and diabetes. So 8 minutes a day. Think about that. So carve out time to help yourself. So for better health, your exercise routine should comprise both cardio and strength training exercise. You want to balance them. So ideally, one day, perhaps do 15 minutes of strength, and the next day do 20 minutes of a brisk walk. Do back and forth. It doesn't have to be the same thing, so you don't have to do both the same day, but you got to get some movement. You got to get some exercise. So weightlifting reduces the kind of fat from the body that is linked with cardiovascular problems, okay, which is the visceral fat. And that's the fat that is present deep inside the tissue around the organs. And when we have it around the organs, it squeezes the organs and therefore makes it harder for the blood to flow, oxygen to get in your body, etc. So if you really want to help yourself, carve out some time for exercise. Okay, we can boost our cardiovascular health with our heart healthy because it has L-arginine. L-arginine is a nutrient that helps blood flow. It helps energy because blood flow creates energy. It has CQ10 and L-citrulline, and they help to boost the nitric oxide. So that is for oxygen and blood flow. So nitric oxide is actually helps the vessels to relax. And then that helps it to expand. So just like if your muscles are constantly tight, it's hard to move them. Our blood vessels, our blood vessels are the same way. If we keep them too tense, they can't expand. So when you do exercise or you're something scares you, et cetera, they can't expand for the extra blood flow to get through. So it's very important to have the right nutrients in your body in order to help the blood, nutrients, and oxygen to flow to every part of your body. And we recommend to a lot of people that are exercising, use a Heart Healthy as a pre-workout. So it mixes with water. It tastes, I like the taste of it.
Lemony.
Yeah, like a lemony flavor. It's about, if I do it by itself, I put in about 5-6 ounces of water and shake it up real good and just drink it. But it's calming and it's healthy. Okay, we talked about stress. Less stress, happy heart. Okay. Here's the thing about stress. And I oftentimes when I talk about stress, I kind of think maybe people start thinking that I'm saying you shouldn't be stressed. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is we have to learn to deal with the stress. And in order to learn to deal with the stress, we have to be healthy. And if our mind isn't healthy, if we're not getting blood flow or circulation to our body, then we're not going to be healthy. Okay. So if the heart doesn't get enough blood or oxygen, then what happens is we can end up with blood clots, which means our blood gets sticky. And then of course we're liable to end up with strokes. So so many people are in a stress situation 24/7. We call that fight or flight. Our body should not be in a fight or flight all the time. Fight or flight should be in the case of a emergency. Something happens. We always laugh about, if you're sitting somewhere and the grizzly bear comes running through at you, that's fight or flight. Okay, it can't last a long time, and most of us stay in that state way too long because we're just not healthy enough to get out of it, because we're not doing the right things. Eating, supplementation, exercise, meditating, whatever it is. So, and stress doesn't have to be something horrific. Doesn't have to be somebody passed away, somebody was in a bad accident, going through a divorce. It can be stress. We go through stress all the time. Small stressors, constantly happening. And sometimes people get into a bad rut in their life and it seems like everything is happening. Okay, one thing after another, especially during COVID. We had COVID, couldn't visit family, many other things, just one thing after another. And those small stressors, and oftentimes we think, okay, those are little things, big deal, but they're not a big deal. They are a big deal. Too many small stressors can affect our long-term health if we hang on to them and we don't release it and we don't decide that we just have to get away from it. All right. people that sit and watch the news anymore are constantly in a state of small stress. I have a relative who worries about everything on the news. Last night it was, is there going to be a war with Russia? Why are you worried about it? There's nothing you are going to do about it. You can't stop it. So you can't sit and worry about it. Turn off the TV, okay? Read a book, do something, knit, exercise, do something to get your mind away from all the things that want to be thrown at you. There's enough stuff in our own families with issues going on that might be happening. We don't need everything in the world. And it's too easy to hear about everything and every opinion. It doesn't matter. Form your own, stay away from it, and let it go. Don't let things that are out of your control create poor health for you, okay? Anxiety is all the time. And it says that it increases the risk of heart disease by 26%. I personally disagree with that. I personally think that in our society today, it's probably closer to 86% because anxiety is epidemic with people. The people that come in here are telling me anxiety. I ask about anxiety all the time. And we've gotten into this state where there's so many problems. There's nothing good anymore. Everything is a problem. And we have to change that. We have to understand everything is not a problem. Okay?
John,
Sure.
I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dr. Richard Schultz had, 20, 25 rules for health. The first rule for health is to stop watching the TV news for any reason.
Yep.
He said it's one of the best things you can do for your health. Just,
Right.
I wanted to share that. Don't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's fine. That's exactly right. I couldn't agree more with that. I mean, I have stopped listening to it. You know, I might in the morning for maybe 10, 15 minutes. That's it. I'm done with it. Okay. Because it's no matter what side of the fence you're on, it's still negative. And it just gets to be way too much. Even Patty and I have talked about that. You know, people that sit and watch the news and in our own families, it creates a problem. Okay. So, okay.
Think about another thing. Yesterday, 99.9999% of the world's population had a pretty good day. And not a one of them was discussed in the TV news.
True. Yeah. Well, that's the whole thing. There's never any good news anymore. It's all negative because that's what draws viewers. And it's sad, but that's just the way it is. So let's do everything in our power to lower stress. But before we go to the next slide, I just need to tell you the most important thing about the easiest way to reduce stress is to keep your body healthy in every other area. Okay. The way we eat, the exercise, etc. That is the best way to lower stress and keep our heart where it's supposed to be and function the way it's supposed to be. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about how to reduce stress, okay? First thing you want to do is identify where's it coming from, okay? Now, if it's coming from the TV, turn it off. If it's coming from people that you're around, turn them off, get away, okay? We have to understand that sometimes we have to tell people or let them know or just stay away from them so it doesn't stress us out. There are people that stress us out. And oftentimes they are people that are closest to us, unfortunately. Either you have to get away from them, you have to decide you're not going to pay attention to it, or you got to try to get them to change. Getting somebody to change is probably the hardest part. If we stay away from certain situations, sometimes those situations will change by themselves because the source of it will understand or realize that they're becoming a problem. Not very often, but it can happen, okay? Most of the time, we just have to turn our back and walk away.
Can I say something here, John? Would that be okay?
Sure.
Viktor Frankl spent over 7 years in Nazi concentration camps. So I would say he had a pretty strong education there in dealing with stress. And he said himself, they can take away everything else, but they can't take away your attitude, because you decide what your attitude is going to be every day.
That is
And
correct.
he survived over 7 years of concentration camps, which were specifically designed to drive people into despair.
Right.
And I always think about that example. And, he started a whole new school of psychology where, if you know your why you're here, what your mission is, you could deal with just about everything else.
Okay.
I don't mean to interrupt you. I just thought you might like to hear that.
Yeah, thank you. And that brings up a good point, your why. Why, what is our why? But our why should be ourselves, taking care of ourselves, all right? Because most of you have heard me say this before, if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of anybody else, okay? The positive attitude is great. We have to understand that we make the choice whether we're happy or we're not. But again, if we're not healthy, it's very hard to make that decision. I have told people over and over again, if you wake up in the morning and your body's hurting, it's hard to get up. You have no energy. You're depressed and you just don't want to face life. It's hard to have a positive attitude. I mean, we can say, you know what, just have a positive attitude and look at the bright things. Well, if we look at ourselves and we say, you know what, nothing is right for me, then the first thing we have to do is change that. And then a lot of times the attitude will come with it. Okay. So, and an idea is to keep a stress journal. We identify patterns and common themes. Okay. If you don't want to write it down, keep it in your mind. If I go and associate with these people, I come home and I'm down. I'm frustrated. I'm angry, whatever. And it might not be the people said anything to you, but it's just the happenings around it. What is going on? So right now there's a lot of stuff going on where people are saying, even in families, if you're not vaccinated, you can't come and visit. That makes people angry, and that you may need to stop talking to them until this thing passes and people, decide it doesn't matter one way or the other if that ever happens. But we've got to take care of ourselves and understand what is causing me to feel this way and bring stress onto me. So again, and some of it is the things that we do to ourselves. I like to talk to people about self-talk. Talk to yourself in a positive way, not in a negative way. Talk to yourself the way you would want people to talk to you, or you would talk to people. And when I hear people say things like, I hate myself. Well, how can you be positive and reduce stress if you live your life hating yourself? That's a really hard thing to overcome. Learn to say no. Okay, and this is a hard thing for some people. Learn to say no. It's a very easy word, no. But it's hard sometimes to do because we all want to be the one to help. And I don't want to turn somebody away. But you have to understand that you only have so much time in your life. We only have so much time on this earth. We have to decide, I can't do more than I can do. You have to know your limits. And the most important thing is you have to stick to it. You have to say no, whether it's time, whether it's money, whether it's many other things. Sometimes we know to say no, but we don't because we say, well, they need me. And sometimes the feeling of, I want to be needed overweighs our common sense, and we agree to things that we can't live up to. So learn to say no. Set your parameters and decide, I can give about this much time to whatever it is, whether it's for my kids to babysit my grandkids, whatever it might be. But somebody is going to get put out when you say no. But that's okay, because you can't always put yourself out to try to make sure that everybody else is happy. Because as much as you give, people always want more. It doesn't end at that line. It's going to be a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. So you have to set parameters and boundaries and say, this is all I can give. And then start taking care of yourself. And it comes back to you time. Take care of you first. Avoid those who stress you out. I kind of mentioned this before, okay? Spend less time in their company, all right? Be around people that make you feel good. And it's not always, I pat you on the back and you're the most wonderful human being in the world. Not that. It's just when people, for whatever reason, you just feel stressed when you're around them, you need to make a change and avoid or find new friends or whatever it might be. It's hard to find new family, but we can always find new friends, okay? Communicate. You got to express yourself calmly, but forcefully. You got to let people know how you feel. And that's whether it's a loved one or that's whether it's people outside. Because sometimes people don't know that they might be bothering you. I like to joke around and do stuff. And sometimes maybe people don't like that, but people need to tell me, okay? And if that's the case, most people will listen and adhere to what you want. So if somebody told me, if Patty said to me, you know what, you joke too much and you whatever. Okay, then, around her, I'll just be angry. No, just kidding. Okay. But, so we need to understand, we got to communicate. If somebody else doesn't know how they're making you feel, they're never going to change. Because if you don't tell them any different, they think it's okay. So communicate. View situations in a different way. I kind of mentioned this too when I talked about the source of stress. If you can just sit and shut your eyes and say, you know what, this situation or this person, I just need to ignore it. I'll kind of give you an example. I started playing in a men's league, golf league last summer. And this one gentleman that they paired me with, at the first 3 weeks, I just wanted to quit golf. He wouldn't shut up. And every time he made a bad shot, he made a joke about it. And but to him, it was funny. To me, it just took all my attention away. And I was talking to another guy that plays in our foursome, and he said, yeah, I just don't even listen to him. I just kind of walk towards my ball and just get away. And after a while, he'll stop doing it. And sure enough, when I did that, I realized that he was very insecure, very nice guy, but he just the way he spoke and the amount of speaking drove me nuts. And I even told Patty about it. Do you remember?
Yes.
His name was Billy, and I was just like, Billy's gonna make me quit golf, okay? So, but we just have to look at it a different way and sometimes say, does it matter? Okay, does it matter? Is it important or not? So, think about things in a different way. It says here, if you're stuck in a traffic jam, see it as some alone time or listen to your favorite music. Kind of hard if you're in a hurry. Like tonight, I was driving from West Hartford to here, and I had 35 minutes to get here, and traffic on 84 was backed up. And my first thought was, oh no, I didn't think about listening to good tunes or anything. But we got to make our thinking a little bit different and try to look at it in a different light. Because for everything that's bad, there is something good. There is, if we look hard enough. Look at the bigger picture. Okay, again, does this situation matter next month? A month from today, will this matter to me? All right. So I think we have to understand, it's kind of like, I always tell Patty that, if I have something on my desk and I have it there for about 60 days and I haven't done anything with it, I can throw it away. That's not important. Okay. And I think it kind of comes back to ourselves with our worries and our stress, is that, is it, if I get in an argument with somebody or somebody bugs me, next month, does it really matter to me? It's probably not worth me getting upset about the gentleman that talked too much. Really, it's okay. I can survive it. I've survived a whole lot worse. So we just have to kind of look at it at the bigger picture and understand what else might be happening with somebody else or other situations. And then accept the things you are unable to change. Again, we talked about the news. I can worry about the Russia situation, but can I do anything about it? No. Is it going to matter to me? Nothing that I can change. I would prefer it doesn't happen, but you know what? It's the way it is. If somebody is sick and there's nothing you can do about it, if they won't help to change themselves, then there's nothing you can do about it. If somebody passes on, it's over. We just think about the fond memories, the love, rather than the negative. Okay? Because things are going to happen to us. People are going to leave us, whether it's at the end of their life or just friendships, it's going to happen. So we just have to say, you know what? I know that I'm going to endure stress. The best thing I can do for myself is to keep myself healthy so that when that stress comes, it doesn't hit me like a Mack truck. I just have to deal with it because we're all going to go through stress. So we need to prepare for it. We need to understand it's going to happen, not worry about when it's going to happen. But when it does happen, we're healthy enough to be able to cope. And then learn to forgive. All right. We're all sinners. We all make mistakes. We all do things wrong. We all say things that we shouldn't. We wish we hadn't have. We all have resentments because things have happened to us. We all can give off negative energy at times, okay? Whether it's for family, whether it's friends, whatever it might be. Yesterday we had a staff meeting and we talked a little bit about this. Not everything is going to be roses all the time. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to say things, do things, but we just have to learn to forgive and love. Just if we just understand those two things, that we can love and forgive, then we're going to be so much better in our own mind, our hearts. Everything is going to be so much better because we're not going to be stressed and upset and frustrated all the time. It's so easy to be frustrated. It takes work not to be, because you have to think. When we don't think, we just go out the wrong direction. So we have to think about it. Somebody in our meeting yesterday, I asked Patty, I said, how long have you been married? And you said?
Almost 38 years.
And how many times have you just been irritated for the person you love?
Oh yeah, many.
Okay, at least 38 times, okay?
Nice.
But we still love, we forgive, we understand, and that person is probably 76 times upset with her, so who knows, okay? So as long as we understand we're going to make mistakes and so is everybody else, it's easier to let it go and say, it's not going to stress me out. It doesn't mean anything. It was a mistake, or I just overlook it. It's okay. How do we bring a sense of calm, tranquility? Okay. It's catnip. So that long word is catnip. Okay. First time I did a program, I had a cat. I put my herbs on the counter. My cat kept jumping on the counter, never jumped on the counter. I thought the cat went crazy. Didn't realize there was catnip in it. Called Dr. Nelson, said, my cat is after my supplement. She said, it's the tranquility of the catnip. I got a hold of one of them one day, went to sleep for about 2 hours, okay? So it calms the nervous system. Now, please don't think, oh, I'm taking something for animals. You're not. It's the same acid that helps anybody or anything relax. So it helps to reduce stress and anxiety. Do I want you using something all the time to control anxiety? No, but sometimes we need it. Sometimes we have to until we get ourselves under control. Hops helps to relax the blood vessels and improve the blood circulation. All right. So oftentimes things like serotonin and gabapentin, all that stuff helps to relax us. And if we don't enhance those neurotransmitters, we're going to at times be overly stressed because we're going to go through stress. And some of those things I mentioned earlier, we're not going to avoid feeling that stress for a short period of time. So sometimes we need assistance, especially if we're unhealthy. What's that one? Go ahead.
It's just a little saying that your heart knows the way, run in that direction.
The heart knows love.
There's another one. Don't ruin a day by thinking about the bad yesterday.
How many of us have a bad day and we let it bother us for a long period of time? Whether it's holding a grudge, being angry about somebody overcharging, whatever it might be. Cutting you off on the highway, even just things that happen, and we just carry it and carry it. And that puts us back into that what we call fight or flight mode. So just relax. It's okay. Yesterday might have been a bad day, but you know what? You're only going to have so many bad days. Therefore, it's past. Now we're going to have good days. And we're going to have a whole lot more good days than we are bad. Michael mentioned about, 99.999 or whatever number he used, had great days, et cetera, et cetera. And nothing bad happened to him. So we just have to think that way. It's okay. We're going to have a bad day here and there. I have a bad habit sometimes. A couple of weeks ago, I came in, the computers were down. I thought, oh boy, I'm going to have a bad day. I already determined I was going to have a bad day because the computers were down. Didn't turn out so bad, but that's the way we have a tendency to go to the negative. Let's get rid of the negative and think about the positive. We saw this, and in fact, one of my clients pointed out to me, and I thought this was great. A lot of people use the first of the year as a change. I'm going to change. I'm going to exercise. I'm going to, detox. I'm going to get on a program. I'm going to eat better. I'm going to be a better person. And normally, how long does that for the average person last? A couple of visits to the health club, a couple of meals a day or two, eating, and then all of a sudden something changes. I really like this. If January is a month of change,
February is the month of lasting change.
So January is for the dreamers.
And February is for the doers.
So are we a dreamer or are we a doer? And so if February is for the doers, think of what March and April and May are, okay? So if you continue your healthy lifestyle, your healthy thought process, month after month, you're not the dreamer, you're the doer. And therefore the dreams will have come true, all right? But people dream, but it's short term. And if it doesn't happen right away, the first week in January or the first 2 days of the month or the first day of the week, oh, it's not working. Well, that's because you're just dreaming. Nothing happens overnight. So that's why we decided to start our next group cleanse the last day of February, because February is for doers. And again, we talk about why. Why do we need to do it? It's all about health, folks. It's about our heart. It's about our body. It's about our mind. It's about feeling good about yourself. It's about loving yourself and just taking care of yourself. People tell me all the time, I'd rather eat. So would I. Okay, I'll agree that 100%. But you know what? I'd rather drive down the highway 100 miles an hour too. I just can't. Okay, it'll kill me or kill somebody else. So there's things that we need to do that we don't really feel we want to do. But normally the things that we don't want to do are the things we should do. I get home, I don't really feel like cooking something to eat, but I know I should, because if I stop somewhere and get garbage, it'll end up harming me or killing me in time, okay? Which it almost did at one time for me. So there's a lot of things we don't want to do. So let's think about the things we need to do. I hear all the time people say, I don't want to take supplement. I don't want to take anything. Okay, then be unhealthy. It's okay. It's a choice we make. We can either be healthy or we can be unhealthy. We can either eat right or not eat right. We can either love or we can hate. It's our choice. But the one on the negative side all equates to one thing: poor health, poor lifestyle, issues with our body, that's what we want. That's what we can have. It's easier to go that way than it is the other way, believe it or not. So I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. Stay tuned yet. I'm going to give some specials here that I do every time we have a class. I see Taryn's on. Hello, Taryn.
You awake? She like you're sleeping for a minute.
Taryn is on her 7th day of liquid today, I believe, right? Okay. So congratulations, Taryn. All right. Is Liz on? What'd you say?
It's going for 10.
You're still going for 10?
We'll see.
You look like you're half asleep. Did I bore you?
No.
Okay, I don't see Liz, so I don't think Liz made it tonight. Okay. All right.
It's Greg.
Hey, Greg, how you doing? Hey.
Something.
I'm doing well. How you doing?
In the background.
You again.
Is that Aubrey?
Aubrey's in the background. Hello.
Hey.
Hello. Okay, how about I turn, anybody have any questions or any comments?
John, I have a question. Judy?
Hey, Judy.
Hi there. You were talking about the numbers on the cholesterol and you said the individual numbers count, but what about the ratio? If you have a high HDL, you know, that offsets the LDL, if it's a little too high, the LDL, does that count? You know how they give you that blood work when you have your cholesterol tested?
Well, the higher the LDL, the more dangerous it is. You want you want your LDL to be as low as you can, and you want your HDL to be as high as it can. But your LDL is always going to be higher than your HDL. So your bad is always that number is always going to be higher than your good.
But they give you a ratio. You know, you get a ratio and low
Like
risk,
a range.
average risk. You know, it's like a formula so that
Okay.
the HDL can offset the LDL if you're, you know, have a
Well,
higher
if you have
LDL.
high LDL, bad cholesterol, it still thickens your blood. Okay, so you really don't want thick blood. You want to keep your LDL. So in order to say, I've never heard of somebody having a bad LDL, but really, really good LDL or HDL and say, okay, now you're good. I've never heard of that. And every doctor does it different. Some of them do a ratio, I suppose. Most of them give you a combined number and say, okay, you're at 200, that's too high, or 220, that's too high. You need to be 180, whatever. I don't agree with that either, because it still comes back to what is your L versus your H. That's really the way we need to look at it, in my opinion.
So in other words, if you have a high LDL and a high HDL, that's not good.
Correct.
You got to have the low LDL too.
You
Or-
want lower
or-
LDL. Yep.
Okay.
You want lower bad. So think of it this way: anything that's bad, you want low, right? You don't want much bad in your body in any form or fashion.
Well, they say some people it's in your genes so that you can't do anything to lower the LDL. But if somebody doesn't want to take a statin, then they're stuck with the LDL. So
No.
statins have terrible side
No.
effects.
Okay, first of all, this idea that it's in your genes is baloney. Okay, it's all about eating. It's a lifestyle. If you came from a family that has high cholesterol problems or bad cholesterol problems, and they eat bad, because you have their genes and you eat bad, you're going to have the same problem. That's the way it works. Okay, it still comes down to the way what we put in our body and how we treat our body. Period. That's, you know, I come from a family that everybody has bad cholesterol. Mine isn't. Why? Because I eat right. I supplement. I detox. Okay. The genes thing is, you know, I was going to make a joke and say, let's just wear khakis and you won't have to worry about it, but might not have went over well. But anyways, so just think about that. We can't get hung up on, it's like all other diseases, whether it be cancer or diabetes. Oh, it's in my family. Like it's in my family. There's nothing I can do about it. Not true. Not true.
My mother was diabetic. Her mother was diabetic. One of my mother's brothers was diabetic. If I had stayed on the path that I was before I came here, I would probably be diabetic
I
today
guarantee it.
because it was the lifestyle, it was
Yeah,
the way.
the excess. Yeah,
And, lack of
Exactly.
lack of exercise and all that, so.
no, I agree with that. Thank you.
Who else?
Kim?
Yes. Probably for the last 2 weeks. I don't know if it's the season, a combination of the season and listening to everyone and watching everyone with masks on. I don't know, it's driving me out of my mind. And I've gone over the cusp from just being frustrated to now having very short temper. And I don't like it. Will tranquility get me over that hump, do you think?
Tranquility will help, but I'm going to ask you a question, Kim. Okay. Everybody wearing a mask. If they're wearing a mask, I want to ask you, why does that bother you?
Just the whole culture that we seem to be living in right now, where you don't see it, or you don't hear it, but it just seems like just the mere existence of that feels like to me that's never going to change. Like we're going to be living in this society forever. But
Are
there's
you
also,
wearing-
you can see the shaming glance that you get when you don't have one on.
Okay. But I'm going to go back to one of the slides. Does that really, why should that bother you?
Well, after 3 years, I think I've let it slide a lot. And just lately, I'm sure it's a combination of the time of year that it is, that I just don't have a lot of me time in general to
Okay.
get past that. But it just, after 3 years, it's the first time it's really affected me. And I don't really know why.
So my suggestion is this. Number one, for me, I don't wear a mask unless I go into a
Neither do
place that's
I.
mandatory. Okay. So if everybody else is wearing a mask, it doesn't bother me. I don't care. Okay. If people think I should wear it, then that's their situation, not mine. If they want to glance at me, I have a lot of people give me glances about many things. Forget about masks. Okay. Okay. And it's okay. It's okay. I don't care. All right. I live my life and that's okay. So try not to let it bother you, because those people are thinking the same thing you are. Oh, look at her. She's not wearing a mask, perhaps. Okay. That shouldn't bother you either. So we have to live our life the way we feel is best for us. And then the rest of it just needs to go away. That's my opinion. Now, to answer your initial question, yes, tranquility will help you keep you calmer. But as I said earlier, I don't want you to always forever and ever until, because there's going to be other viruses, other variants come down the pike. I guarantee you. Okay. So I don't want you to have to take tranquility for the next 10 years either. So whatever.
No, I mean, my situation. I took tranquility for a while in the beginning because I had a lot going on, and I haven't been taking it consistently for quite some time. This is just another level of a hump I need to get over, I think.
But it will help you. Yes.
Okay.
Who else?
Yeah, John, I wonder if I could share an idea with you.
Sure.
I've dealt with real estate appraisal, and your comparable is everything. Your current situation means nothing unless you're comparing it to something else. Now, when I got up this morning, I did not have to have polished boots on my feet. Already it was a good day. I did not have to go out and run 5 miles as I did every Friday in the Army. So the day got even better. Not that I did get a runner's high, but I didn't have to do it. And nobody checked the press of my uniform. So, that was another good day. Nobody checked to see I had the correct haircut. See, I have these comparables of what it was like when I was in the Army. And for me, every day is joyful, because the energy slopes are all extremely positive. It's all in your comparison point. I mean,
Right. But
you
on
know,
the other side of the coin, Michael, there's people that wish they were in that situation. Okay, where they had the guidance or they had the leadership or whatever. So the point I was making with Kim is everybody has their own. You not having to do that because when you were in the Army you did, there are other people that might have been in and miss it.
You know, I get it, John, and it's all about your point of comparison.
Correct. Correct.
The energy slope is always, there's flow in life. If there's
Correct.
flow, there must be slope. If there's slope, that means that there are 2 points of unequal height. And so you sort of strengthen my point. It's all in the comparison points that you choose.
Correct.
And, you know, I mean, hey, today I had a pretty good day, and so did 99.999% of the world's population. Hey, I'm happy. The Buddha
Good.
said life is suffering, and the Christian cross says kind of the same thing. I didn't have to suffer a whole lot today. I'm happy.
Good. I hope everybody else is happy. Okay. So anybody else have a question?
I do.